Hi friends, welcome. My name is Baron and this is my channel where I talk about some book stuff. Kevin's already joining us. I'm the Book Baron. Welcome in. So today I wanted to do a little bit of a wrap up of the first quarter or the first chunk of the year because I have a tendency to lose sight of things, forget about favorites. So I just wanted to capture it in one video that I can look back on later, remember all of the things that I was loving, not loving, how I was feeling about reading at this point in time. I just want to talk about some favorite new author discoveries, some favorite new series, new books, some books that I found disappointing, some of my biggest surprises, my favorite couples, heroes, heroines, all the things. Without further ado, let's chat about how reading has gone so far this year. The first thing I want to talk about is 3 new authors that I've discovered that I am really just loving. I am so incredibly excited to dig into their backlist. I will tell you, this was so hard to narrow down, and I really did try not to do too many repeats so you get a variety. But the 3 authors that I am driving with the most right now is Milena Mackay, who writes a ton of different sapphic romances. A lot of them are age gap and tend to feature like an icy older heroine. I found her not through my usual methods. Most of the time I find authors through Instagram, through friends' recommendations, off of Goodreads. Usually there's some sort of social media component or like YouTube video that I've watched that has directed me. I just happened to find her through my library catalog and randomly selected one of her books. I had never heard of this author before this. It just was one of those serendipitous kismet moments. It reminds me of like when you were younger and you would have like a Barnes & Noble gift card, go into the store and you'd end up purchasing a book kind of at random and just loving it, but you had never heard of it before that. That's how this felt. I'm so excited to read more of her backlist because she exclusively writes sapphic romances. I love when I can find an author that I can always turn to when I'm in the mood for something sapphic. Next up is Nyla K, and this one was such a pleasant surprise for me. So I know a lot of people love her work, but I was so worried going into reading her for the first time that because she writes and taboo, that it was going to feel fetishizing of queer men. I didn't find that at all, which made me really happy and a lot more confident going into the rest of her backlist. And she has a pretty decent backlist of romances, and I know she can deliver on tension, so it makes me really excited to dig into the rest of her stuff. And then finally, KM Moranova. So I went from seeing absolutely nothing about Fabric of Our Souls, and then all of a sudden it seems to be everywhere now. It really seems to be having a moment. Although I really love Fabric of Our Souls and I had such a good time reading it, she's got a lot of books that still have under 1,000 people that have read it. So I know that there's a lot of potential to find some good, underrated, juicy books. And she has another book that's coming out soon. So I'm really excited to read more of her stuff. I know she kind of does dark, emotional, and it just calls to that angsty teenage version of myself that I still feel like I am sometimes. All right, 3 new favorite series that I'm really digging right now. So first up, I have the Hollow Boys. If you have been watching any of my videos from the past few months where I'm wrapping up with my TBRs, you will know that I am really digging the Hollow Boys series. It reminds me so much of what I hoped the Devil's Night series would be, because it's rich dudes causing problems. They're the bad guys that you're not supposed to like, but you always end up loving. And there's that through line of a revenge plot line of digging into. There's something more sinister going on. It's just making for a really fun read. Once again, this is something that is kind of making me nostalgic. It's kind of tripping that nostalgia wire in my brain where it just reminds me so much of something that I really would have loved as a teenager. And yet it's been aged up and is perfect for adult me. So I'm 2 books into that. I'm really hoping to get to The Blood We Crave really soon because I'm enjoying this series so much. One of the other series that I'm really diving with is The Cloisters, and this is The Maiden, The Church, and The Prophet. So this is centered around a cult. It's very dark. It's got a Handmaid's Tale style spin, so very cautious with this. But oh my goodness, this is such a good series. It's so action-packed. There's so much happening. I was just riveted throughout reading this entire series of like finding out more secrets about the cult, find out what's going on, who actually believes in the cult, who doesn't, how are they going to get out, can they get out? And I just absolutely burned through this series. It was so addictive. It felt like a really dark fever dream going through these books because I just could not put them down. And lastly, this is one that I'm really excited to get into more of because it gave me a whole new subgenre that I didn't know I needed or wanted, and that's the Beasts of Gamora.
Ooh, someone's been watching some MCU stuff lately. Definitely meant Gamora. Yeah, this isn't part of the Marvel Universe, just to clarify.
And this starts with The Dark City Omega by Elizabeth Stevens. This is an Omegaverse dystopian fantasy. Yeah, that's a lot of things, but apparently that's the perfect combination for me. It was just so different than I think a lot of things that I had read before, but still kind of relied on some of the tropes that I really like that I haven't read in a long time. The tension between the hero and heroine was my absolute favorite. It was so sensual but resistant. I loved it. I think that Omegaverse spin, or like more of that like paranormal spin, really just added so much to this dynamic. I love a barbarian, gruff hero, and this hero served it. So I'm really excited to see like where this story goes. I think it's supposed to be 3 books. I might be making that up, I'm not sure. And the next one comes out soon, so I'm very, very excited to continue on. All right, next up are 3 of my favorite reads. To start off, For the Fans by Nyla K. This is a new all-time fave. If this doesn't end up in my top 10 of the year, I will be shocked. Dismayed. Well, maybe not dismayed, because that means I had a really good reading year if this doesn't end up in the top 10. The tension in this is so good. The spice does not break the tension. So I got the best of both worlds. It's both spice heavy and there's still so much tension, which I feel like I've just been lacking in so many books, and this just served it to me on a silver platter. I think I mentioned this in my wrap-up video, but I'm not joking when I say almost every day I think, maybe I'll just start rereading it. Maybe I'll go like a chapter a day and just really like drag it out. I think about it constantly since I've read this. Also, not only delivered on the spice, because I feel like sometimes you'll read a book and you're like, you either get the spice or you get the romance development that you want. Lately, I've been finding a lot that are in the spice category and then they're lacking in the romance. And this had both. It was so delightful because all of those like romantic moments are so hard fought. There's so much in the way of these two. Just watch as they are like forged in fire. They come up against these circumstances where they have to just continuously turn towards each other, and it was so satisfying. There is a moment where they hold hands that is stuck in my head. Holding hands. Well, little baby hand grab is the thing I remember the most, because that feeling of like, oh, it's finally happening was so exciting. I love this book. These two are soulmates. You can't convince me otherwise. I'll fight you on it. Cynthia got this for me for my birthday. Thank you, Cynthia. Kindle After Dark on Instagram. Oh yes, Cynthia has a YouTube channel now too. Go subscribe to her. Next up is I still have the gift tag. Second favorite book that I have read so far. And this was a gift from Nikki in Bookland here on YouTube and on Instagram. The Head Mistress by Melina Mackay. This was so unexpected. I went in 0 expectations, didn't know what to expect. I knew it was a sapphic romance and that there was a one-night stand at some point. But wow, the tension in this, once again, so good, which I think is the thing that's like the key for this quarter. I wanted the tension to be there. The tension delivers in this book because the romance is between someone who is brought in to basically entirely destroy a school and remake it, and someone who exists there as a teacher and really wants the school to succeed. She has a vested interest in seeing the school continue on. They are on complete opposite sides, and yet they know, because they've already hooked up, that they are very compatible in a lot of other ways, but their views on the situation are so opposite, and so they are really truly enemies in a lot of ways, and yet they still want to have those little moments. They still want to have that little hand grab. They want to have that note under the door. They want to do all these little things for one another because like through it all they still really care about each other. And this had such a fun little mystery going on because someone is trying to kill people on the campus and we don't know who it is. This was so fun, and if you love an icy older heroine, I implore you, please read this. It's so good. I just realized my friends bought me all of my top 3 books for this quarter. Next up is Below the Puls, and this is my third favorite read for the past 3 months, and this is by C.L. Madigan. Emily from the Astral Library purchased this for me. I will link her channel below. She just put out a fanfic video. Well, I guess when you're seeing this, it'll be like a couple weeks old, but go watch it. She's got some good recommendations. This is the third book in the interconnected series Up in Lights, and this is the first in a duet. And I loved this book because I connected so much with Cherry as a heroine. She is like self-sabotaging. She has incomplete healing. She's got some trauma from her past that is like kind of getting in the way of her really becoming the truest version of herself, of becoming her best self, of pursuing her dreams as a dancer, not asking for the things they want, not trusting life to give it to them because they've had it, like the things they love taken away from them. So why would they trust it in this moment? And I just like seeing a heroine that you so deeply understood make decisions that you can see yourself making was both really painful and also cathartic because I was like, dang, like I can totally see myself pulling crap like that. And her connection with Harlan, it was just like, it was atmospheric. It was one of those that I know some people really don't like insta-love. And I think that's sometimes because you don't feel the chemistry between the characters. It feels forced and you're just like, what? Where did that come from? And with these two, yeah, there's sort of an instant connection, but Cherry's so resistant to it, even though she kind of feels it. And so I feel like it still keeps that tension and you get building the relationship, even though they had that instant connection right away, because Harlan is just so into her. And I just, we love a hero that is very sure of the heroine. All right, next up, I'm gonna do 2 disappointments. I think this is gonna be my only negative part for the video because I honestly, as much as I am kind of a complainer, I actually really don't like talking negatively about things. It feels cathartic in the moment and then afterwards I feel gross. So we're gonna keep this section really short, but it needs to be put out there. First, most disappointing book that I read this quarter was Underlock by Mariana Zapata. So I'll be honest, I didn't have a ton of expectations going into this book, but I've read enough Mariana Zapata's that I kind of know it's slow burn. I know she's got a little bit of a formula to her narratives, and I generally like it. It just did not work for this. You can see how much she has grown as an author after reading some ones that I really loved from her to now reading this book. I could not stand the hero and heroine. She was too sunshiny and he was way too grumpy to the point that I genuinely think he is a jerk. Did not like him. I was forced, not really. I could have stopped reading the book at any time, but in my mind, Mariana Zapata forced me to read the word baby on page over 100 times. When you think about it, like that means that I was reading that word like every couple pages. Unacceptable. I don't like that word out in the wild as a term of endearment. To have it used as a term of endearment in that book made me so frustrated. And the thing was like, I saw the potential there. I saw like what Mariana like really is good at still present in this book. The prolonged tension of the like kind of potty humor, complicated family relationships. There were so many things that I'm like, oh, you can see where she came from. But overall, I really was just so sad because I really just didn't end up liking this book that much. The other book that I didn't really care for, and I was pretty sad about it because it's a really popular one, is Until I Get You by Claire Contreras. So this is like a hockey romance and it's second chance, and it felt so generic in the beginning, but I kind of didn't mind it. And then the second half with the suspense plotline was terrible. I thought that was poorly plotted. It was too drawn out. I just didn't understand like how some of this was even fitting together. Like it just didn't make sense to me. The heroine somehow like up and disappeared from everyone's life. The hero can't possibly track her down even though he has so much money. And yet somehow her friends can find her. They're posting on social media. Her friends are around her. Like you couldn't track the friends? Like what? That doesn't make any sense. And then these two weren't honest about like the thing that kind of tore them apart that caused this to be a second chance. And then that got drawn out. And then there was also the introduction of like a marriage of convenience that like went nowhere. I just didn't really get the hype for this, mostly because that suspense line, it's just so poorly plotted. It really, really irked me. But we're gonna move on. So for best surprise, I'm gonna give this to All Roads Lead Here. Now, this is actually a reread that I did recently, And it was a book that I gave 3 stars. I just didn't get why people liked this when I first read it. I enjoyed parts of it. Like I said, I like Mariana's like slow burn, but I just genuinely didn't get the appeal of this. Thought that like the relationship with the teenage son was kind of goofy. I didn't appreciate a lot of the scenes in here for what they were providing for the story. I kind of thought that they were like silly or stupid, and I really just kind of walked away from this book being like, it just didn't seem like it had much. I think part of it too is this kind of does border on almost women's fiction because there is a lot of emphasis on the healing of the heroine. And then when I was talking about this book and why I didn't really like it, I was like, those are all things that I love now. I need to go back. So I thought maybe it would be a 4-star. And then to have it be a 5-star and now my all-time fave, Mariana, that I was not expecting. Sometimes books find you at the right time and sometimes they don't, because I also reread The Wall of Winnipeg and I like that a little bit less now. And that was like my 5-star all-time favorite, Mariana. So like, I think it's just a testament to that. So this was a fun surprise to have it like hit so well this second time. Next up, we do have a repeat, and that's because I can't stop talking about this book because I can't stop thinking about it for the fans. Like I said, I went into this thinking that it was going to be extremely overhyped, that it was going to be fetishizing of queer men. I was so apprehensive about this book because of how I had seen people talking about it. And although weirdly, I don't see this in a lot of people's like favorites videos, like I wasn't seeing it around a ton. It was a book that I would bring up and then all of a sudden everyone has read it and loved it and was like, you have to read it. How have you not read it? And so in a weird way, it was both under and overhyped for me. I also thought there was going to be too much spice in this book for me and that there wouldn't be enough relationship development if there was any. And I'm so happy to report I was so wrong. I was so wrong. And I'm sad that I like waited so long to read this book, but like I just said, right book, right time. So maybe that's a little bit of what happened here. I love it. The last one that I'm going to put in here, and you might be like, Baron, I don't know about that. Hills of Shivers and Shadows. So I love Pam Godwin with my whole ass. I don't think I've ever rated anything that she's written that I've read so far under 4 stars. Her stuff always hits because I love her plotting. She's such an untropy writer, so every book she writes just feels like the first time you've ever read anything like it. But she said, I'm doing a why choose book. And I was like, Pam, why? I have stated why choose tends to not be my favorite trope because why choose is I'm just so picky with. So picky with. And then it was like she was going to be in the bush of Alaska and it was going to be survival. And then I was like, are we just going to why choose The Great Alone by Kristen Hanna? Like, what are we doing here? I was a little unsure. And then it was getting a lot of people that were like, it's so good. And then a bunch of people that were like, it's way too long. And so I just didn't know what to think. 1, I loved the book. And 2, I can't stop thinking about what's going to happen next, like how this is all going to play out. But poor Nikki, I was like messaging her and I was like, so where are we at with this? Like, how do you feel about so-and-so? And what did you think of this plot point? And I was going back and forth with her in these lengthy messages because I have so many theories and thoughts, and like the more I thought about Frankie, the more I really appreciated her character. It does help that I was definitely picturing one of the love interests as Rollo from Vikings, who is, that might have helped. That might have influenced it a little bit. I kind of thought this is going to be the first one. This is going to be the first Pam that I rate under 4 stars. And then to have it be like 4.5 stars, I was like, oh, okay, well that's exciting. Proves that I will read anything she writes, I think. All right, so now I'm going to go through some of my favorite characters. So for my favorite couple, are we shocked? Are we surprised? No, we're not. It's Avi and Kiren. These two are soulmates in every timeline, in every version of reality, in every universe. These two are soulmates. I just love how much these two turn towards each other, orient their lives around each other, and how hard it was for them to get there, the truths that they had to learn about themselves to get there, the sacrifices that they had to make. Beautiful. A very close second. Sage and Rook from The Truths We Burn. I love this type of dynamic between hero and heroine, where the heroine is like the popular girl, but she feels like she has to fit that bill. She's been pressured to be this type of person, and she's ready to break break free. She gets drawn to the loser guy who can't help but just be themselves, but they also hate themselves a little bit. And they've got a little bit of trauma, you know? It very much reminds me of from the Losers duet, Jessica and Manson's dynamic. It reminds me so much of that because I think it's interesting when the heroine is more of the bully than the guy. I got it in the Losers. I got a taste of it again in this. It made me so excited about these two because I have so much like sympathy for both of these characters, how much they really have to just like accept some things about themselves in order to be together. Next, for my favorite heroine, I think this probably isn't going to be a surprise. This is definitely a repeat. It's Cherry. I just connected with her so much. I saw so much of myself in her, of the kind of incomplete healing, of the self-sabotage, of the needing to be shown your deepest, darkest fear, realize that you can survive it, and then come out the other side and make life your bitch. Really get to see that, I think, most fully in Back on Me, which is the second part of this duet. But I'm gonna hold this book up because it's the only one I thought of the duet so far. And then for my favorite hero, this has to go to Josh from Deliver by Pam Godwin. There is something about in a reverse age gap when the hero is so 1000% sure of the heroine. They can see through the things that they're not saying because they're paying such close attention because they're so sure of this heroine. They're so in love that he can tell when the heroine is lying or maybe fudging it or maybe pretending she's fine when she's not and really pushing her to just advocate for herself a little bit more. And really, he had to completely reprioritize everything in his life and change his conception of himself and also a little bit of his morals in order to have her in his life. I just love how much he really wanted to protect her, even though she is the older of the two. He realized that she still needed that. Now, for a book that I didn't read, that was on my TBR videos that I still really, really want to get to. I'm not going to do any more though. I want to read all the books that are ever appear on my TBRs. It's my greatest aspiration to be able to check all of them off my list, but mood readers mood read, so you know how it goes. But the book that I most deeply want to read, that I'm so sad that I haven't read yet, is Count of Eight by Bryn Ford. This one I keep thinking I'm gonna make my next read. It's a captive. They're both dancers, and it was giving like still beating but maybe darker kinds of energy. It's one of those books that I keep thinking it's not the right time. I'm doing the like, I need to save it for a special occasion. I keep putting it off because I'm like, I'm not going to be able to maximize my enjoyment of this book if I read it right now because I'm a little bit too busy. Or I'm like, I'm kind of a little bit more in the mood for a fantasy, so I should read a fantasy first and then I'll get to this book. I keep putting it off. It's my greatest aspiration to read this next month. I'm really, really hoping to, even though I'm not putting it on my TBR, but that's the one that I really, really deeply want to get to. The other one is, and I still might be able to get to it in March because I'm filming this before the end of March, so I might be able to get to this one, is Feathers So Vicious, because I've heard so many good things about Liv Xander and I cannot escape this book on my Instagram and I need to know what the fuss is about. So that one's like, I think I'll probably get to that still potentially this quarter just because of like when I'm filming this. And now for the re-releases that I'm excited for next quarter, and I think all of these are actually coming out in April. First is Crossed Over by Santana Knox, and this is a sapphic romance that's got like roller derby in it. Her visuals that she has been posting for this book are just like top tier. I'm so excited. I saw the cover reveal recently. She's got like 2 different versions. It keeps making me more and more excited. All the little quotes that she's putting up, I'm just like, ooh, that sounds so good. So that's one that I really want to get to. One of the other ones that I want to get to, The Shadowlands Omega by Elizabeth Stevens, obviously. So this is the second book that's going to be coming out, and I don't know, honestly, anything. I just want to continue in the series, in this world. I don't even care if it's like not following the same couple. I don't care. I need to be back in this world. I had so much fun with a dystopian fantasy. I didn't know that was the thing I needed. And finally, I have Red Flags and Tuesdays, and this is by Nordica Knight. This is also coming out in April. This is an college, like new adult romance with an eccentric loner and a bored rich boy. Kind of giving me like certain vibes of For the Fans, so I'm like excited because Nordica Knight can bring the tension, let me tell you. So her little call outs about this, she says it's an opposites attract, it's got good banter and some mental health rep, all things that I love. Just thinking I need to read more Nordica Knight for sure. I don't care what, she delivers the tension in an MM romance, and so I'm like, I definitely need to read more from her, and that is coming out. I'm so excited. But that is my quarter one wrap up. Like I said, I just wanted to document this. I think like sometimes you get to the end of the year and you kind of almost forget about like different parts of the year, the different phases that you went through with reading. So I just wanted to capture that a little bit. Hopefully you found this a little bit interesting. I think I have some clear winners that we've identified from this. All right, I am starting to lose my voice a little bit because I am batch filming and this is my last video. So with all of that, let me know what was your favorite thing that you have read so far this year. What have you been loving? Is there a subgenre that you're really liking? Was there a book that's really stuck with you? Was there anything that you were really disappointed by that you wanted to hit better? That is the worst feeling, when you were so excited for something and then it doesn't hit. I want to hear all the things. How's your reading going? Don't forget to like this video if you like it, subscribe if you want more content from me, and I really, really hope that I see you on my next video. Bye-bye!